Well. So,
Happy New Year.
all right, good evening. My name is Tracy Schultz. I'm the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. I open this meeting of the advisory group and hereby call a meeting to order at 6 p.m. We're holding this meeting in person at the MDTA Police Building at the Bay Bridge. Attendees should note that the meeting is being recorded and will be available on the BRAG webpage after the meeting for attendees to view and download. Attendees should also note that the recording will include the audio and video from this evening's meeting. Presentations will be available to download from the BRAG webpage. I would ask anyone in the room with us this evening, please refrain from speaking unless you are presenting or answering questions so that background noise is minimized for those viewing remotely. Members of the public pre-registered to comment on a specific agenda item. I'll provide you with an opportunity to comment after the agenda item is presented. We appreciate everyone's patience and ask that you hold any comments until the designated time. We ask that you please introduce yourself by giving us your name and community you represent before moving on with your question or comment. Members of the public join us via Microsoft Teams will be able to view the meeting only. For security reasons, the chat function in Microsoft Teams is not enabled for MDOT personnel. Any posts entered in the chat window are not visible to staff and will not be responded to. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded in its entirety. For the record, all members are present except for
Steve Wilson and Pat Lynch and Kurt Rigel.
All right, the first agenda item is review of the minutes of the previous meeting held in October. Are there any corrections? Anybody send anything in? I don't know, you Melissa. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Second. All right, our next agenda item is requirement of House Bill 56, which is a report on the group's activities since the last meeting. Any recommendations they have based on those activities? Any members like to share their individual educational activities and interactions with the community since the last meeting? Jack?
I've had, I guess, a number of different interactions with different groups. Had a unique invitation to go participate on a panel down in Easton in November. Submitted, let's see, it was actually run by the Smithsonian, doing a series of meetings and panels and exhibits around the country and around the state. This particular thing was on change in rural America. And I was asked to be on the panel with several other folks. And the obvious change they were interested in was the Bay Bridge. And positive and negative over the last half century plus. So it was an interesting evening. And there's a great deal of interest out there, as it is here, about what next, you know, what the future is going to be, where tier 2 is going to go. I'll leave it at that. On the island, probably the two questions that I get regularly from various groups I'm involved in. One is, what the heck's going on with contraflow and why can't it be done right? Richard and I talked about this earlier, but I think the crying need for maintenance on the bridge and the impact of maintenance, particularly last week when the weather was good, trying to get work done, and what that did to contraflow and to backups on both sides. You know, I get questioned about that a lot. And I feel bad because I know there's a huge amount of energy that goes into it here and on Richard's part. But I hate to say it erodes public confidence in decision making when it seems to back up too far, too long on one side or another. You know, it's a perennial problem, but it's one that exists in the community. The other thing, folks are really interested in tier 2, what's going to happen, where the infrastructure is going to go. And that, you know, I think we're all interested in that same thing. But
Are they the same ones that are asking about the traffic being backed up?
no, you know, it comes that there's a lot of concern from the heritage standpoint. On, you know, the impact on heritage cultural sites. and sites on the island, and particularly in the county, including you guys over at the Narrows, on what happens if the new bridge goes in across the island, if and when, and that comes from not the same folks. But thank you, appreciate this opportunity.
If I could just ask a follow-up, if you don't mind. Jack, is there anything, we put out video that describes how contraflow is done, graphics. We've got with the new, automated lane closure system, we've got some rendered videos of that. We've done the 2 presentations here with the BRAG that describes the specific business rules that we follow on how to do two-way operations. I feel like, I've been on TV. Now, I'm not sure what more I could say. It's not like we dream at night of how to irritate people. We want to make it easier, but candidly, I could benefit a lot if you feel like there's something that specific and tangible we could do to help with education. We'd be happy to.
I was at a meeting last night. I said the same thing to the folks that were there talking. I said, please, if you're sitting in a problem backup or something and you get an idea, give me a call. But I think communication wise, we can never do enough to get that word out. And as I said at the last meeting, I encourage folks to be informed when you go out. If you're going to travel, have an idea what that daggone road looks like. And, to Richard's credit, your credit, you guys do a lot to get that word out, but I don't think you can ever really do enough. I wish I had more concrete suggestions from what's done, but it's a continuous concern. I have to say one thing that Gary Huffman did, our sheriff, on some of the backup days in the summer, is park sheriff vehicles. You can't stop people from getting off, going on the back road. But a vehicle there in the turn lane, the shoulder, right before an exit with lights flashing, really does help keep traffic on Route 50, I believe, and that's feedback I get from folks. Seems like a small thing. I think it's legal to do that. You can't stop people from going in, but you can keep them from using the shoulder. It's one idea that has come up. And I know Jim Moran is dealing with folks. I see you smiling, Jim. I know you hear the same stuff, man, over and over, but we just got to keep trying.
Some of the people, what I'm saying is, are the ones that are complaining about the traffic and stuff, are the same ones that don't want a bridge. And it's like an old car, eventually put enough dollars into it, it keeps breaking down, you're going,
I know.
it's time to replace it. That's, what they're talking about now, the maintenance going on this bridge. As time goes on, it's gonna get worse.
I agree.
It's not getting more and more,
I agree.
more and more shutdowns, more and more lane closures, not less and less.
That's part of what.
Inevitable.
Presented life cycle presentations that shows that is exactly what is predicted.
Steel over salt water, they dump salt on it in the winter time, and just, nature of the beast.
Well, again, Richard and I were talking about this week. We had that warm week last week and some ungodly cold stuff leading up to that. You can't do maintenance in that cold. You can maintain in the warmer weather, but it had to be a terrible week to do maintenance with all the traffic we had. I'll call you and we'll talk about this maybe
Right.
outside of the BRAG world, but I think we're all open for ideas, but keep the communication flowing. I would say it's good as it is, but keep doing everything you can possibly do. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, no, thanks for your feedback.
I had a distribution list of between 40 and 50 people countywide, most of them predominantly on the Broad Neck, and I try to keep them updated with what's going on. And going back to previous comments here, on Wednesday afternoons, I volunteer at St. Vincent de Paul. And when I told them today, because we were overwhelmed today, and I said, I have to leave, I have a BRAG meeting tonight. They had no idea, concept or whatever about the Bay Bridge. What's going on? What's this? What's that? And I don't know if it's just they don't get the paper, they don't read the news, I don't know where their lack of information is, but, I mean, they had numerous questions they were asking me about the upcoming study. And then mostly from the people I send out to, their two main things were, are the automatic gates working? And then what happened to the pilot study on, the exit off of Oceanic Drive? Those were the two main questions I got back from most of them. But I think a lot of people are just so uninformed because I guess they just don't seek it out, or they're not able to access that information for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe their lack of interest until something happens, and then all of a sudden they're up in arms and they want something done. And why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? And then they say to me, why don't they do this to make traffic flow smoother? And I went, trust me, they've tried everything. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is, because as you say, you're putting out there as much as you can.
And again, I don't, you know, the onus is on us to over communicate. So we take that and own that. But at the same time, if you have valuable feedback and suggestions, we want to hear it, because I think,
I always say to them, if you have questions you want asked to be asked or whatever, you know, give them to me and I'll ask them, or any ideas you want presented, I'll present them. You know, just let me know. So,
An example of how you irritate people. Monday, the 28th December, I had an appointment in Annapolis. About 1:30 was the appointment. It was 35 minutes late because I couldn't get across the bridge. It was in conflict law. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the guys were doing. I didn't see any work activity. I saw cones and I saw a vehicle. At the time I got across, the vehicle was picking up, but not the cones, but the barrels, and putting them away. So whatever they were doing, I missed. But I mean, I don't know, is that necessary to be done at Monday afternoon? Create an hour back up across the bridge? That's what irritates me. It didn't irritate me. I've been going through it for 20-some years now. But
the answer to your question is it necessary?
Yeah.
We don't do lane closures when they're not necessary. Between winds, rain, cold temperatures, summer traffic volumes, we're limited on how many closures we can get day and night. Certain operations require daytime for safety, and other, you know, we're working every available hour that we can to try to keep it out of the peak season.
Just take a central off the truck.
and the wind.
Say it again.
Take the central off the next truck, and leave it work, closing lanes, and leave it home, you closing lanes, back it up.
The wind doesn't get recognized either. I don't, you know, we don't got blowing off the bridge, and there's been some winds recently that I think we blow people off. You know, that happens, it's invisible because you're in your car and you're driving across. And I understand all those things. I'm just telling you what happened. Just so you know.
Any other members of the community? All right, next we have is updates on projects from MDTA Chief Engineer Jim Harkness and MDTA Administrator Tim Smith. We'll tell it out, who wants to go first again?
Jim's listed first.
Yeah. First on the program.
Good evening, everyone, and here to give you some updates on the projects that are causing, you know, the closures and why we do the lane closures on the bridge. You know, and sometimes some of the things that we need to do, you'll see somebody out there with equipment, and sometimes they're technological, and we're running testing. So sometimes you may not necessarily see, you know, a traditional piece of construction equipment, but certainly we have other things that we have to do on the IT front, if you will. So, you know, I'm not sure what was, you know, caused your example, but
No,
you know, things like that happen.
We were talking about how you irritate people, not how you irritate me.
Right. All right, so we'll get into our first project, which is BB 2757R. This is the 5 kV electrical improvements project. This project, essentially delivered a new feeder system for the bridge, as well as set up an intelligent automatic transfer switch system for the bridge.
Can I ask you a question about that project?
Yeah.
And no question is irrelevant, but you go to replace the deck. Is that cable in a position to where you got to move that cable to replace those sections of decking when you do the decking, or is that cable fine where it's at and not an issue when you go to do the decking? So I see it's hooked on the sides in some spots, and I'm like, if you're picking the whole thing up.
The cable was attached on the side, and we relocated it as part of this project. We do have a part of the redecking project that relocates other utilities like fiber and things like that, so that we can perform that the deck or panel replacement project easier.
So that new feeder is not an issue with replacing the deck.
Okay.
Yeah, what we talked about, what I understood, tell me if I'm wrong here, is on parts of the bridge, it is up higher, because we're not doing the deck. But where we're doing this deck truss, they drop the cable down into the truss section that's remaining.
Yeah, I mean, it varies the location of the feeder throughout the bridge, but yeah,
That's fine. I just want to make sure.
when we were in design with the electrical one, we knew about the redecking one, so we are saying that. All right, and so for this one, this project is substantially complete. The contractor's out there just closing up some punch list items. So this will be the last time that we discuss this project. On to the next one, BB 2819, which is the westbound deck rehab and miscellaneous modifications project. Recently, the contractor completed the line striping on the westbound bridge. So all the lane markings are all new, and the only thing remaining is 3 gantries need to have the commissioning done, and then they will be lit up, and we'll be closing out that project. So that is the project way back that had to fix lane 1, and so that is now just finally coming to an end with all the ITS and all the lane use gantry replacements. Okay, the next 2 projects, BB 3008 and 3014, are part of the automatic lane closure system. So the first project on the eastern shore, we completed final integration testing. We were doing operational testing, which may have been what happened when you might not have seen anyone out there. So just running through all the possible scenarios, running through all the checks to make sure that there weren't conflicting displays, making sure that the operators in the operations center could change the lane use controls, could change the gates, the markings, put up messages, take down messages, and get feedback from all those things. So that was all done safely. That's what we've been working on. We actually were able to roll out the phased implementation of the use of the gates and the IPMs, the markings. We've had the lane use controls on that eastern shore in place for some time and operational. We had some of the DMS boards in place and operational. And then right before the holidays, we were able to implement the use of the gates and the IPMs. So that occurred on the eastern shore. On that shore, we'll continue with punch list items and supporting and this testing that needs to continue to occur on the other devices, the other gates, and the other configurations that we have, the plans that we run. So that's what will be going on over the next 2 months or so.
Jim, question?
Yeah.
Coming across tonight, lane 3 was closed.
Yes.
But it was only barrels that were on the eastern shore side. The gates were not in use. I was just curious.
Yeah, I'd have to, Jamie's not here, but Richard, I'm not sure if you know what the decision was to not deploy the gates tonight, maybe just because we weren't going to two-way.
Two-way in the event that we were gonna need to, and have to go into two-way.
So it was a prep, and I guess it went into two-way, gates would have come out, IBMs would have been illuminated. The EMS message boards would have shown the signs overhead.
What's the difference?
Well, the IPMs are only for contraflow traffic, so the illuminated markings on the road.
Right.
And so are those, the DMS, the digital, this dynamic message signs that are above. So those are only, so the gates would only support.
So, but I guess to that question, then you're telling me that when we're not in contraflow, and we close that lane down, we're gonna still have the barrels?
I'm not sure about
The
that.
barrels will still be in the crossover area, because, they will be there whether we're in, even when we use the gates, the barrels will remain in that area.
Well, I know they're supposed to remain there for, I was understanding that for, could be 4, 6 months, whatever, until the public got used to it. But I guess I'm looking down the road, are we saying?
Yeah, down the road, we're hoping that through private education experience, that we're able to remove those, that's the plan.
Okay.
And then the gates will be deployed without such a necessary.
Yes, and let's be clear what we're saying here. So we're talking about barrels, right? So right now, that lane 3, the barrels go all the way back beyond the gates, right? What Richard said was there would be gates in the crossover. I'm sorry, there would be barrels in the crossover. And what we're talking about is you deploy the gates and after the gates are deployed, the barrels could be deployed in the crossover area to provide like a hard visible separation from the traffic so that there's not a risk of somebody cutting across.
Understood, but that's not a long-term issue. That's, again, we're not talking about a year from now, we're gonna still have barrels out there.
We are talking about in only the crossover.
Okay. So, but I guess to that point, the whole purpose of the gates was for safety and for rapid deployment of closing and moving lanes. If we're still got personnel, got to move barrels.
And
Well, we will, but don't get it, that's just in the crossover areas. And now, leading to the crossover areas, you will have your gates that will be deployed as well as your LUSs. So all of that will be in place. In other words, they'll be deployed prior to you getting into the area where the barrels will be. So the protection and the
Makes
safety
sense.
is there.
Okay, I guess, yeah. So you'll have the gates, the barrels, like that area is always closed. You'll figure out, you'll place your barrels, then you'll open your gates and do what you got.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, makes sense.
So they're therefore protected.
Right.
Just a little follow-up, please. So I was asked to ask that tonight. When you use the gates, I guess it was a Tuesday. Was the first day.
That's correct. 20.
You did have barrels there. And several people asked me, were they gonna keep the barrels? What are the gates for? So that, will they just try to give them a chance? That was my response. So that is a good, question that people wanna know. And then on the eastbound, coming eastbound, you're not gonna have just a few barrels. You talk about crossover and having barrels, there's gonna have to be substantial thing there because, like you say, protect people.
That's the eastbound is gonna be, it's a little different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but the reason for the barrels again is, again, for us, just a conscious decision to make everyone aware of what these gates are, where they're at. And make them aware of that, hopefully educating them so that we can remove those at that, once they become educated.
And keep in mind, right now,
That goal.
this system is designed to handle, I think it's 7 closure scenarios. Right now, the gates are only being deployed for half of one scenario. Okay, so if we didn't have the barrels out there to assist, then we have to plan for all of these other scenarios without the barrels there, and it's more complicated. So it's helpful to us to have the barrels there as we transition through this process. But as we talked about, when this is all said and done, the system's live and all the scenarios are clean and done, the barrels through the main gated area are gonna be gone. Hopefully, everybody's conditioned to what the normal offsets are. They figured out they can't ride in the red X without getting pulled over. All of that kind of comes together. And we're only talking about barrels in the limited crossover area itself, not leading up to it.
And just to tie back to what Jim is saying, don't, it's easy to, you see gates and you think that the gates are just supplemental, right? But there's a whole bunch of safety stuff that goes on behind the scenes, which Jim was talking about, making sure AOC and maintenance are all communicating, making sure that if something's deployed, they're seeing it deployed here, we're seeing it deployed in the field. If it's not, it's not. There's all these cross checks that are going on as part of that. That is just not seen.
So the public I talk with, they very think chose probably the safest place to try it out, the whole system on both sides. So that was probably a good decision.
So the Eastern Shore gates that were deployed on Tuesday and Wednesday and a couple other times, is that working for plans? Any issues?
There's learning, there's been some issues that we need to work through, that we were working through, but nothing.
So I guess what I'm looking for is the last 2 mornings, the barrels were out. Or I shouldn't say mornings, in the afternoon, the barrels were out, for the work on the bridge, but the gates weren't out. And I guess the more the public sees the gates out with the barrels out, the more they're gonna associate the two being, okay, move over. So that's all. I just wanna, if you guys got a plan, you're doing what you're doing, and that's great. And just, the public looks at it. And, we thought when the system was gonna come on for the learning curve for the fall, we thought both sides would come on. And we've only seen the Eastern Shore, the Western Shore gantries haven't been lit once. And, that's all. And I know it takes time and, we're trying to get this implemented. And
It's just a conscious effort to make sure that everyone is safe and that all the practices and all the procedures and all the protocols and everything are meeting up to the safety expectations. And then once, it's just starting small.
Sure.
And then grow.
And again,
that's the question we get from the public. When is it gonna be ready? And that's all. We just trying to give them some sort of timeline. The work.
Jim, you can give a better outlook, but we are gonna be fully deployed for the summer travel season, for sure. And the goal will be to have everybody conditioned. We did this in the middle of the winter so that the local regular commuters get used to it. Hopefully they'll stop riding in the Red X and they'll get.
Well, that's, but think
And
about that.
all of those kind of things we're using this time to safely bring on board the system to help make sure everybody's conditioned.
So, because that's, I don't get the complaints that Jack gets. I get those. I get, there's people running down through the X lane, all the way down the line. And, that just makes people lose their mind. And if there's a way we could, get that under control, and in hindsight, I thought, well, maybe we put a gate at each one of those under gantries and let that gate swing open. And we're queuing the cars all the way back to, Stevensville Middle School. And that's a long way to queue to push everybody over to 2 lanes. And I know there's gotta be a reason why we're going back that far. But should we shorten that? I don't know. I'm no, leave it at that lane.
We can't shorten it.
I don't, sure.
Yeah.
But what,
This, everyone in the Red X, the enforcement is going on.
it is,
But.
Yeah, I
but-
went down to the officer
Okay,
today, they
but-
pulled over 2
but
guys
remember,
today.
this is part of that driver behavior.
Absolutely.
The whole overall system, right? They weren't used to seeing that, so now they're in there, now they're thinking,
Well-
what do I do? Do I go,
And it's never been that far out from the
Right,
bridge before, right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
it's,
and I get, people ask,
they
why
got
so far out?
drive past it.
They ask that question, why are we being queued so far away from the bridge? And I know it has to probably do with Route 8 and
It's
the
the
old pass.
classification.
Right,
What were they saying right before we went live?
nothing.
Weren't they saying what I heard? Weren't they saying I guarantee you on day one, somebody's gonna drive through a gate,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, sure.
Right, so why do we need to have the red X's so far out?
That's why we have 2 red X's.
But no, but I'm saying, and I understand the red X's, but for I don't know, I just see the backup that the red X's, you start to merge 3 into 2 and you pull them back so far, people look at that and go, why do I need to be back? Why don't we merge half a mile from the bridge? Why are we merging 1.5 miles or whatever that distance is, from the bridge? And that's all, I like to have the answers. So when they say because of X, Y, and Z, that's all. Just looking
It's
for
it's
something.
because we need to have, we need 2 red X's before the closure. To affect the closures, right? So we start from where do we have the gates and how many did we have to get in? And what spacing did we put there? So that set us a distance from the crossover. And then we had to say, okay, we need two red X's. Let's get some spacing on those. So now that pushed us out there. And then when you do a double lane closure, which this system will do, you need a second set of red X's in order to do that. So then that's what ends up pushing us that far away.
That's great.
So that we're balancing that, automated piece of this
Mhm.
against the desire to reduce secondaries by backing people up further than we want to.
Right.
Again, nothing, we would never desire to induce a queue more or further than we would have to. But we're balancing that with the need for the automated piece of the system, so.
That's great information.
Yeah, as you're talking to constituents and your community members, it really is important. It's something we've been trying to do is sort of, I hate to say de-emphasize, but for lack of a better term, de-emphasize the gates. The gates are like a kind of, those X's, the red X, if you follow that and you get out of the lane when it's closed, you're not gonna have a problem.
Correct.
Right now, yeah, you're gonna be in backups just like you were in backups before, right? We've always had backups at Bay Bridge, probably my whole lifetime. So that's not gonna change from this system. We've said that from the beginning.
Right.
That's a volume issue,
Right.
right? This is just gonna help to streamline the opening and closing of the contract.
No, I think it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to this thing.
No, but it's important because, I mean, the questions that you Jack, are bringing are, it's important, I mean, because as Will said, I mean, the burden, it's our responsibility to get that education out, but don't forget, that's also responsibility of BRAG. So.
And that's why
so
the more I
wanna
know,
give
the
you
more I'll-
information. so
On our
you-
meetings, I put out there, and our social media will put it out there also.
Yeah.
Do these bridges have their own website?
We have a baybridge.com website that gives
Strictly
all the
this?
traffic updates, yeah.
Okay. Just,
The project information, the ALCS system is all on the website there.
okay. It's one of the things that we're gonna start pushing that out.
The base span updates are available. You can actually listen to the message through that webpage.
Excellent.
The tweets are there. Pretty much, that website is dedicated to all things Bay Bridge.
Because I'll get our county staff to start pushing that out every day, get plugged in, know what's going on at the bridge and everything's on there. So that website's got these gates and where we're at day to day, and I think that would be hugely helpful.
Jim, I totally agree with that. Again, I think the more people are informed and take responsibility for being informed, the better off we all.
Especially the lane closures. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
for constructions.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is, we get that notice a week ahead of time. They know on this day, this lane's gonna be closed, and okay, well, I'm gonna plan accordingly. So, and that's, shame on you if you're not gonna make the effort to be informed. So,
And we did, beyond our own internal information, we did a media availability. I picked up WBAL, CBS, many of the local channels picked that up. We had airtime on radio. So we're doing what we can through earned media as well to get the information out.
right, thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
That's good. So the second project is BB 3014, which is on the western shore here. And so for that project, they were able to make all the cut over to permanent power, the 5 kV system. They tied in on our fiber backbone, which is our main communication across the bay, and they've begun the final integration. So you'll see 2 sets of gantries that are illuminated with more coming in the next 2 weeks here. So we'll be hitting these in succession, coming away from the crossover and working our way out. So you should start to see those light up. And so that's what we'll be working on, in addition to the same kind of operational testing we had to do over there. Just checking that all the systems are communicating, that the safety checks, are being run and they're reporting back to the operators properly, or throwing up the warnings to the operators if things are not reporting back the way they're supposed to. So
but you still have 3 more gantries that have to come down. Is that correct? You're gonna, the old ones that you're
Yes, I mean.
right at the base of the both bridges, and then there's one further back.
Absolutely, yeah, the large one, the
Yeah.
crossover, right, S1,
Yeah.
S2, or M1, S1, sorry, that's the large one, that one, once we get that fired up, we should get the new one fired up hopefully this weekend. Then we'd have to work on taking that large one down, but then, like you said, there's two others that were decommissioned, but, still need to come down, yeah, so all that kind of work, a lot of that has happened on the eastern shore, and then once they fire up here, we'll get those coming down on the western shore as well. That'll be part of it, when they can't do the testing or when they're not needed for the testing, yeah.
One of the gantries coming down.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
They come down before the western shore goes.
Yeah, they should be down before
Right,
while we're running the testing.
right.
Because that physical infrastructure
It's blocked.
contractor, he doesn't have anything to do.
Right.
So he's got to do that anyway. So, while the sort of the, technology side is working on the testing, that guy will probably be out taking those down.
Give you a month, just
Oh, this one.
this month.
Yeah. That's the gates there. And then our next one is BB 3013, which is our on-call or our task order contract. It's to perform the structural steel repairs, concrete repairs, other miscellaneous repairs. Currently, the contractor has 39 task orders assigned to him, with 3 more pending. He's completed 16 task orders to date. So we'll just keep continuing to do that as we find new items that need to be repaired on those bridges. The next project is BB 3012, which is the queue detection system. Again, this is that sort of technology project where we're coordinating with SHA and the University of Maryland's CAT lab to have a queue detection and travel time system for both approaches. That'll help inform operational decisions, construction decisions about lane closures when we can expect to have traffic demand at a point where we'd have to open and close lanes and that kind of thing. So we have 24 sensors installed on the roadway right now. We have 15 more to be installed, and we think that should be wrapped up by April or March in terms of getting all those devices in the field so that we can get all this data in so that the very intelligent people at the University of Maryland can keep working on these kind of groundbreaking, algorithms that they're developing to see about predicting when volumes will be coming to the bridge here. So by the end of calendar year 2023, we believe we'll have that kind of the prediction algorithm available to us, and we can start checking that and testing it against real life traffic. Next project, BB 2726, which is the eastbound deck rehab phase 1, and then we have a package 1. So this again was a construction manager at risk contract. So we had entered into an agreement with a contractor for pre-construction services. We then, they helped us through the design of this project. We then were able to come to an agreement on a price to do the work with them. So in October, our board approved that package, that contract. We are giving NTP notice to proceed to the contractor tomorrow. We have a pre-construction meeting with them tomorrow. Through this winter and spring, we'll be starting to get the utility relocation, which we kind of talked about there. We'll be doing some stormwater management work here at the interchange and looking at material procurement, long lead items for the steel and getting a casting yard set up where they can start to eventually make those deck panels.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
it says phase 1, package 1. How many packages and how many phases is there?
So there are there are two packages at this time for phase one. So this package one covers the portion, if you think about it, between the suspension span and then the through truss. So that's sort of
Okay.
a slight downgrade portion of the bridge there.
Mhm.
The second package would be the portion of these deck trusses from basically in the curve
Okay.
up to the suspension span.
Really?
Yeah.
And then the third one is the Eastern Shore side?
So that's a different phase. So we would get into a different phase.
I'm saying that's what.
Yeah, so then there's four phases for this redecking.
Wow.
It's a lot of work.
But the 4 phases takes you across the entire bridge.
Correct.
Right.
But you're talking, I guess, again, the public was just understanding that, okay, the deck's gonna be replaced, it's gonna be replaced at night. They're gonna do the whole bridge starting in November and they'll be done by spring. That's what I mean. We need a little more timeline to just let them know, hey, this is what's coming and this is how long it's gonna last.
Right, so that's part of what we'll be getting underway with here is part of that outreach work.
Okay.
Where we are really making it clear what portions of the bridge this involves and how we're going to be doing it. And that's all part of, in addition to state polar outreach, obviously, but just sort of getting out there, making it clear what we're actually doing out there and how we're doing it.
So it'd be probably, am I correct in assuming one package a year?
Not quite, I think it ends up, being, we would, in this whole, phase one, we would see it ending in the winter of 2025, 26.
Okay. But that's
That's just the deck truss.
That's two packages.
two packages, right? Right, the curb and between the two suspensions.
That's right.
The other span, just to be clear, like, why aren't we doing the whole bridge in one shot, right? When we did the overlay project, the right lane, we did all of the right lane because that was all done previously around the same time frame and had similar level of condition and we needed to do the whole thing. This is being phased to align with the remaining usable service life in the bridge.
Mhm.
We don't want to replace something prematurely and then have to come back prematurely. So while, yes, we do have to come back again, right? We also are not coming back again sooner in the future. You're trying to minimize how often you're doing work by using the bridge as long as you possibly can.
But you're not planning to start between the trusses and the curve, two different locations working simultaneously?
No, okay, this is
It's gonna be,
the contractor, essentially starting near to the eastern shore, working this way. And then by the time he gets here, well, he'll have package two, as long as everything goes smoothly. And then he would just hop over the suspension span and take right on his way.
and the suspension stands, they don't get done, or
That's phase two.
these two, that's the, bring the little.
Yeah.
Gizmo truck,
A
bring it in.
little bit different delivery system on that
Yeah.
one. This will be barge and crane.
They can reach that high.
Yeah,
I can't wait to
it's
see
a lot of,
this.
it's a lot of stick, but they can.
Wow.
And so, but you can also see the number that we have here, it's $140 million contract.
Oh, yeah.
for Package one.
And how long is that section?
That section, I want to say is 2,200 feet.
22 what?
It's 2,200 feet, 2,200 feet. I think the other portion is 2,500 feet. So
Okay, so they're gonna replace how many panels in like,
one panel.
for one distance,
Yep.
and that's from truss to truss.
Right.
Okay.
And the bridge reopens in the morning.
Correct. That's the plan. That's why we engaged this contractor early through this method, construction manager at risk, so that we could work with them to design it, so that we knew that they could lift it from the water, that kind of thing.
The
So
panel is one lane, it's not both
that was
lanes.
both.
It's both lanes.
Yeah, we did not want to create that construction joint down the middle that we had on the westbound, right, where we had to come back with closure pores.
Yeah.
We will have obviously closure pores transverse, but we did not want to have the one that was running with traffic, so we went with, a full panel replacement, not a half.
Steel or concrete for the sides? What is it, concrete is it?
The barrier, oh man, we went back and forth, so I want to say we ended up um, with steel.
Really?
I had to double check for you.
I imagine steel though, but like up on the main suspension, you can't see through it.
Yeah,
It's one thing to public, that's,
Right.
those that don't like that bridge, they just don't like looking through there.
I want to, yeah, I'll get back to you, Jim, because it
That's
was,
not a problem.
because we tested, we had to design
Yeah.
barrier specific for this bridge, and we tested it. We had to have two different types, one for the suspension span and one for this, and we were kicking back and forth whether just to take the type we had for the suspension span and run it down here. I want to say we ended up with concrete and steel in the suspension due to the weight. But I'll get back.
Now, is this information for that project gonna be on that website?
Well, when he talked about the outreach program that they're coming up with.
Okay. I just don't, I mean, is this for public knowledge? Can we?
We're in a recorded meeting.
I know that, but you know,
Absolutely.
Yeah, whatever, yeah. Any questions, any more information you need, if you want to share something, let me know.
Okay.
Between Melissa and I, we'll be able to get you the information that you need. But yeah, we will plan on producing some,
We have a lot planned.
some video to explain it. Yeah,
When's the start date again?
well, officially tomorrow. But that activity that will be going on will be this utility relocation that you really won't see.
Okay.
It'll be below deck, they may have some drop offs and things like that. Maybe
You're months away from.
And
after, yeah, we're gonna, the decks and we're calling that the major portion of the work, the deck panel replacement, that doesn't occur until fall. So we're talking about end of September.
And you will have all the closures to do the work. So you won't see it, but you will see the closures and you'll be going, where are all the guys working? They're down underneath, but they do need to get there.
Yeah, Jim, I think it's gonna be important for us on the BRAG to understand how this differs from the technology the last time, because some of us were on the BRAG, went up top when that work was going on. We got some good pictures of it. But it is it worked. It really worked. The off-peak closures worked. It opened up, except for the very first day, remember, Tracy? But it'll be helpful if we can help describe how this will be different.
Gotcha.
And, how it may work. So the more we can understand, I think, we'll be the agents for you guys and helping that outreach. And that questions that Jim gets and that we all get, it is very different technologically. It was brought in, lane and a half at a time on a truck
That's right.
and then lifted off and pushed over.
That's right.
This will be literally, as was expressed, coming up from the bay,
That's right.
on a barge, which is a very different process.
Yeah, I mean, as our sort of plan, high level was to sort of, as we get in and get closer to the date of the start of the major portions of the construction, to bring more information to this group.
Yeah.
So as we develop the materials, we maybe, start working on this as part of our outreach plan. Obviously, you guys are a huge part of.
Yeah,
our
I'm
outreach.
hoping to put together a toolkit for all you folks to disseminate
That'd be great.
to your different, video, educational materials, schedules, things like that as well.
Good, thank you.
So that first 2,200 feet will be done that winter, next winter? Or do you think you won't get it completed and?
No, not next winter, no. It would be, that would be, so next winter is 2023 by, somewhere around, we'd hope to be in a package 2 by winter of 2020. So we have one more year to finish that.
Well, winter of 2024 is a year away from today.
So 23, 24, depending on how you want to.
I'm saying you're gonna start next November, this coming November.
Right.
Replacing the deck, and that first section is 2,200. Is it your plan to try and get that whole section 2,200 feet done? And if not, you're just gonna stop at a section and pick it up the next fall?
That goal would be by the end of 24. Have that done.
So you're gonna work in the summertime too?
Yeah.
At night?
Yes.
We're just gonna open in the morning, that's the word.
That's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't think there's more traffic in the summertime
There is.
and early in the morning?
And
At night. We're doing this in the middle of the night.
Right, but I, do we know how, what's their best guess? And I know this is,
Charter boats, just.
I'm just curious, when they close the bridge, get the section pulled off, put the new section back down and open the bridge, what's that? Is that all full 8 hours? Is that, I mean, they give you any,
I think last time it was like 9 o'clock closure, 5 o'clock in the morning open, something like that.
but that wasn't a full section and they were doing that from the bridge, they weren't doing that from the barge.
Section, yeah, one section a night. You know,
I'm just,
they did 156 sections, I think.
because I think the public right now thinks that this is starting in November and come March or April, there's no more construction, we're back to our traffic issues.
Yeah.
But we're starting, what you're saying is we're gonna start and we're gonna keep going. Okay, we'll see how this works.
The good thing is they'll have 7, 8 months of experience under their belt.
Practice.
So we'll know how long it takes.
Because I know, imagine with wind and everything else and rain.
Well,
There'll be a lot
all
of-
that is factored into our schedules always, right? We always.
No, I mean, but they probably won't do anything on those kind of days.
Well, I mean, they will do, we'll be fully prepped, as much prep as, they'll do as much prep as we allow them to do. To get that, so that panel removal and replacement is as smooth as possible.
How long is one panel? 2 lanes wide? How
Yeah,
long?
2 lanes,
Actually, it'll be wider because this will be wider, right?
On 3 feet wider.
it is wider, but it's still just 2
Right.
lanes.
How long? Yeah.
I wanted to say it was, 30-foot lengths of panel.
Because that'll determine how many days you're
Yeah.
doing one
Yeah.
panel a day. You know.
It's a 30-foot panel away.
That I forget right now. That one, that number I don't have.
It's the same, 2 of the vendors who were on the team that built the nice Middleton Bridge 2 months ahead of schedule and under budget for us. So, formerly Corman, Coasting, McLean.
Very good.
And there's some drone videos showing the cranes at the nice bridge webpage, if you wanted to see.
It's nice as high as this one.
135 feet clearance. No, it's not. The short answer, no, it's not.
Right.
But they did some very tall pours.
Yes. Yes.
The level of detail that we're talking about is not what my organizations would be asking. What is your plan to publish something that we could just tell them to, because this is going to change. I mean, it's not Captain Concrete, obviously. What can we direct the people to look at and read that would be readable? Not to the level that we're talking right now. Are you planning on publishing something?
We're still working on that. Just said.
Yeah.
Just to back up a second, we awarded the contract and issued a press release that went out on October 27th. That's on our webpage, MDTA's website, that has all of our press releases there. So that gives high level, hey, we're working at night, we're starting
Right.
the deck in the fall. It gives a step through of the big picture of what's gonna happen. The details of, how many, the length of the spans and the weight of the sections and all that.
That's my construction side of me.
Right. All that we will come with, but the big picture, you can go to our webpage, the press release, it has already been put out there.
And that'll be also on the Bay Bridge website. I mean, I think
Bear with me, I want to say yes.
I want to say.
well, I think that's what we should do because it's the Bay
I've
Bridge.
sent it to all of you
Yeah, I mean, I
when
think
we
if we
released it. Yeah.
focus everything about the Bay Bridge on the Bay Bridge website, not have to go through your website to find it, I just think it would be better one stop. Get the information that they need.
There's definitively a way to get to it from this site.
I know.
It might take a couple clicks, but, yeah, we'll work on. Essentially, what you're getting at is make the projects pop out. We can do that. We'll talk to
Have its own project
Mary.
page.
We can talk to Tom.
I mean, I just think that, I think it's, if we go back and any questions, any comments, go right to this website. If you can't find the answer here, let me know and I'll find the answer for you. I think that, yeah, one stop, one shop, it'd be good to go.
All right,
So then we just have one last project, BB 3004. This project is not in construction. All the other ones were in construction. This is in procurement or, and there I had an advertised date of 12/19, but it actually got pushed until tomorrow. So tomorrow, that project, which is the new construction project management office and then maintenance, equipment storage buildings, that project will advertise tomorrow. So that's all I have, but now I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Williams. She is going to give us an update on the Bay Crossing stuff. Thanks.
Not as exciting.
Right
But
on the fence. That's not what you're gonna say.
I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk with you tonight about the Bay Crossing study. Again, going back to the meetings that we had in September. Of course, we had about 577 people attend the meetings. That includes the September 7th virtual meeting, the September 8th Queen Anne's County, and September 13th Anne Arundel County meetings. 577 people, that's a great number. That's great attendance. So why I'm talking about the meeting again is because this meeting was truly purely an information gathering meeting. We didn't have a whole lot of new information to show. The point was to let the public know we are kicking off this project and we wanted to hear what people had to say about the Bay Bridge. So, are you doing? So wanted to show everybody the webpage, baycrossingstudy.com. You can actually read all 713 comments that we received during the comment period for these meetings. Some of it's interesting, some of it's an awful lot, but it's really, I think it's very interesting to be able to dig in and read what people actually had to say. All 4-letter words are redacted, everything is written very nicely. That said, themes. Wanted to talk about themes of what people said in their open-ended comments. No surprise, traffic. There's a lot of traffic. Everyone agrees it's a problem. There was a lot of concern for local businesses and local residents trying to get across the bridge as well as north and south of the bridge. Also a lot of concern for emergency services and the mobility for emergency services. A lot of folks were interested in our modal and operational options, questioning how we could implement transit options or transit pieces into any a new crossing. And also people were concerned with the natural environment and what kind of impacts a new bridge would have on the natural environment. There were a lot of other comments too, but they were the big themes that we heard. We heard most of our comments were from folks in Maryland, but we also heard from people in Delaware, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, California. Folks had something to say. So it was pretty interesting, but you can see that through Maryland, we had just about every county folks provided comment. The thing that I think is most interesting is we did have a survey. It was a 12-question survey. And you can get to the survey. You can see the questions, you can see the responses, and we have some lovely graphics that go with it too. What I wanted to do is just take a quick couple of minutes and go through some of the items that we heard or some of the things that we heard in the survey that are pretty interesting. How often do you travel across the bridge? We've got a great array of folks, some every day, some rarely, some monthly, some weekly. So we got a really good, I would say, a dispersion of travelers. Sorry. Another question I thought was interesting was, what day do you usually travel across the bridge? I think every hand will go up and say, oh, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? That's pretty easy. But something I thought was very interesting was that Thursday is not far behind at all. So that was interesting to see. Of course, we have our, the traffic data that we collect, but just this small survey, we can sort of see some of these trends. Looking at needs or reasons why improvements would be made in the area, we asked folks to rank some different things such as capacity, safety, things like that. Overwhelming, the need for adequate capacity and the need for the bridge to be safe were the neck and neck, top two things that people are concerned with. That's not a surprise. That's not a surprise. What I thought was surprising and what I thought was very interesting is not far behind that was the fact that people understood that this is aging infrastructure. People understand that these two bridges won't last forever. And that's something that we really wanted to get across to the public, that whether you want a bigger bridge or not a bigger bridge, these two bridges will not last forever. And it was very encouraging to me that people realized that. This is the most important piece of information for this group here. How did you find out about these open houses? 25 years ago, when I started doing project planning, 95% of our sharing with folks that a public meeting was upcoming was the newspaper. We would do press releases, but we would put articles and things in the newspaper. Only 4.7% of people heard about our meeting from the newspaper. Things are not the way they were 25 years ago. 50% of the people found out about us from email. Facebook, 14%. Facebook didn't exist when I started doing this stuff. So I just got it very interesting to see how the times have changed and how people find out about these meetings changes. Why is it important to you? Community organizations was 10%. That's you going back to your communities, letting folks know, your communities, your organizations, letting folks know about these meetings, how they can be involved, how they can provide comment. Your work is more important than all of the dollars we spend on print ads. You're sending emails to your organizations, letting them know about our meetings and their opportunities to comment is more impactful than Baltimore Sun. I think that's pretty powerful. And I really just wanted to make that point to this group to thank you for sharing the information about our projects and to ask you to continue working with us to share our information, but also to bring information back to us. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of a taste of what we heard. I'd really like to see you guys check out the webpage, check out the survey, read through some of the comments. It's really good information and it's very meaningful to us as we move forward with the study. Two last points, really good traffic news. This project was announced July 10th. Our traffic folks mobilized and they got summer traffic counts and fall traffic counts taken care of. That was incredibly optimistic and they did it. They did it. So we are completely on target with our best case scenario for developing our traffic model, which is going to be going on this winter into the spring. So that's really good news because as you know, if you miss collecting summer traffic, you got to wait till the next summer to collect it. And we got it. We got it all. Other quick item to add is that while we're working on the traffic, we're also working on developing our purpose and needs statement, which would be our purpose and need document would be our first environmental document. Working on using the information we gathered from these gatherings, from these meeting sessions and developing statements. We will be sharing information with you as we move forward and as we develop more documentation, but more toward the purpose and need document. Oh, sorry, Jack Benson.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
No question. There's specifics about the actual width of the infrastructure. I keep getting questions on. I have questions myself, and
Sure.
I have to say, the folks that were at the meeting over on the island were listening, concerned about local concerns, I have to say. But when will that process start to kick in, getting actual feedback on?
Alternatives.
Yeah, alternatives.
Alternative,
Exactly.
sure. Order of operation. First, we got to collect the traffic. Then we got to put it together into a traffic model. We start running the traffic models. We see what kind of infrastructure we would need. That's going to give us our idea. And from there, we can start developing alternatives. So it will be several months yet.
Yeah.
But we will, of course, be going back out to the public once alternatives are developed and seeking inputs.
I think you and I talked about that infamous 2 mile wide swath, which was part of the process, which just spooked everybody, really, you know.
Yeah, it did. And the reason, once we talked to folks and explained that we did that 2 mile wide was so that we could connect existing infrastructure on the two shores on all 14 of those different corridors. Now that we've narrowed it down to corridor 7, it's coming in.
Yeah.
It's coming in significantly. And I do believe that as we move forward, folks will become a lot more comfortable.
That's an important piece.
Yeah, we don't anticipate anything, anything that would surprise anyone. I mean, what we're looking at, what we're hearing, what we're seeing is nothing far north, far south.
You're not tearing down anybody's home.
Not yet.
Famous last statement, right?
Come back and talk about right away when we do the study.
We're working on the study, but as you know, avoid, minimize, mitigate. That's our rule of thumb. We would be doing our best to avoid impacts as much as possible.
How was the highway street?
Where's your house again? No. We won't go there, right?
That'll be a different bridge across a different body.
I have a question. We have a new governor, administration, some new people in, and how can that affect this moving forward?
What I can tell you is that the preparations that we have made, this project is full, the $28 million is fully funded with authority funds for NEPA to be completed. That's where we are right now. It's fully funded by MTA using MDTA, using MDTA revenues. It is in the CTP. At this time, we haven't been told anything different, that we would not be moving forward. So we're continuing, moving forward, and hoping to keep our momentum going.
Yeah, I'll say too that, you know, the governor-elect has put out through his page what transportation priorities will be for the administration. And he's made it really clear that they're going to focus on multimodal accessibility, equitable transportation. And I think that the study is poised to address every one of those issues. You know, in terms of transit, we have transit options, we have a no-bill alternative, we have tolling options. I mean, you name it, there's a component of that included in the study for consideration. So it's, the good news is we didn't try to narrow the scope so much that we could create a scenario that an administration would right out of the gate have different priorities. The way that this is scoped so broadly, it allows for us to continue to work with the community and get inputs on the options and alternatives and to really kind of make the right decisions in concert with the new administration.
I think the question he was asking, can the governor just come out and say, cease and desist with this project? Does he have the authority, the power at this present moment, if he so deemed it necessary not to,
You take it out of the budget, you don't.
well,
It's not really in
it's really in their budget, so.
That's still the CTP.
Who controls the purse?
It's in the CTP. I mean, there's a lot that can happen
Okay.
in the process that I think that I've said it before, the magnitude of the local support for this project is very helpful. The fact that it does include considerations for transit, for different tolling options, all of the above kind of strategy really helps a lot. Melissa mentioned that the tier 2 funding is from MDTA funds. Those are controlled by the MDTA board and the board members are appointed by the governor. So
I
I don't know if you can do the math there. But
Well,
it's kind of
but
fairly
also, I mean, doesn't phase 2 of the NEPA, it has to address where the funds are gonna come from to pay for the project, right? Is that part of phase 2?
Yes, phase 2 includes a financial analysis, which
But not a commitment.
Phase 2 requires a financial analysis that will be reviewed with and discussed with Federal Highway Administration. Based on that, in order to get approval, we would need to have funds allocated in the next CTP for a significant piece of moving the project forward. So to translate that, we don't have to have $10 billion in the CTP to move forward. We could say, hey, look, and this is, it's a 22-mile corridor. Before we could get to that bridge, we got to fix these interchanges, or we've got to make these smaller improvements in order to be ready to go through with the bridge. So the funding could be for design for a piece. So, you know, I don't want folks, or I don't like folks to get overwhelmed by the overall price tag, because it is not all going to be built at the same time. It is completely impossible. And that was a comment that we had also, was people just not understanding, how do you build 22 miles with four miles of bridge and 18 miles of road? How do you do that? How much time does it take? What's the impact on the community? And those were a lot of the comments we were getting and questions we were getting, was trying to understand that. And I think it's a really important point.
Well, and I think that the BRAG, especially the Anne Arundel County, Queen Anne's County, need to understand the opposition that's going to be facing this project from conservation organizations. I mean, they are going to come out full force, and that's going to be our biggest worry. And we will continue to keep the coalition informed. Matter of fact, we were talking about it yesterday, sending out another letter to make sure that they understand, you know, the ones that we have on board already stay the course. So we're a long ways away from driving over anything. So, and, you know, we understand that. And that's the message we give the public, but there's so many ways that this can come unraveled that's alarming. So
I think that there were a lot of things done well to gain support here. The CPP priority letters helped a lot. The county resolutions helped a lot. The BRAG letters helped a lot. I mean, there was a lot that was done to demonstrate that there was significant support to advance the tier 2. What happens, I mean, I'd love to be able to speculate at the end of 5 years, but, you know, I don't even know what my kids will, where they'll want to go to school, and, you know, there's a lot of things. Feels like a long time at least. So we're in a good position to keep moving forward, and that's what we're going to keep working until something else changes.
very well.
And I may have missed this when I stepped out, and I apologize for having to take a call, but to your point about the opposition, we just today had a contract before the BPW that several questions came up. And if you mentioned this earlier, I apologize.
I didn't, but
Several questions
do.
came up, and some of it was, you know, concerned, and it was basically, it's a supporting contract that not only supports some of the NEPA study, but it's some of the other things that MDTA is doing. So it wasn't just this.
That's
It
right.
just so happened that the item mentioned that the Bay Bridge NEPA study was part of the consulting and the engineering part. So that was an issue. I know I had a conversation with your esteemed August.
I guess to clarify for folks who aren't as contract savvy, some projects you'll do a contract just for that project. So if you pull that contract, there's no money for that project. That's not how we did this. We used task order contracts. So you have individual tasks on multiple different contracts for this project. What we went to BPW for was asking to put more money into those contracts so that we could continue our work. And there are several other projects and other efforts that will be going on under those contracts. That said, if those contracts didn't get money, we wouldn't be doing our facilities master plan. We wouldn't be doing our AET studies. There's a lot of other things that would have fallen by the wayside. Essentially, all the planning for MDTA would be underfunded.
Right, and to your, I mean, that sensitivity of seeing that the NEPA
Yeah.
study was in there. Raised some questions, so, you know, it passed unanimously at the board today, I believe.
Yes,
So
yes, very
I
happy.
don't remember a no vote. You know, there was a little bit of discussion, but nothing,
Supportive,
yeah, it was all
supportive discussion.
a good discussion, so.
And the other thing too is like Melissa mentioned earlier, you know, we had hundreds of comments, including from those who are interested in protecting the environment, cultural resources. Everybody deserves a seat at the table with MDTA to kind of shape what happens here. And we're going to continue to operate in that way. But in terms of recognizing that we have a real transportation need here, you know, the fact that we got priority letters and resolutions, that was very helpful. So
Absolutely.
we're gonna work collaboratively and try to come up with a solution that, you know, one of the things people joke about is if everybody hates it, you probably pick the right thing.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. We hope not to get there. I mean, with our nice Middleton Bridge project, we had really great support from stakeholders to do that project. And it's our hope that we can come up with a good solution here that will meet the need and make everybody as happy as can be.
And today at the BPW, Secretary Force did a great job of describing exactly what Will just said about, the transit and all the different options, and also mentioned that there's a no-build option in there as well. So that's what that whole study has to be able to weigh in. And, I don't think we were gonna have the contract shot down, but having Jim just to be able to present that information and lay everything out to the viewing public, however many people may have been watching BPW, I don't know. But it was very helpful to have him in that seat to talk about that. It was basically almost identical to what Will just said here, and it happened, 12 hours ago, or whatever, 10 hours ago.
When I look at budgets, I want to see paved bridge. I don't want to see transit. Transit's in Annapolis, and I have been working this for over 50 years. There is no possible adaptation for us and all the problems we have in the Broadneck Peninsula that would be resolved by transit. In order to soften the effects of the construction of a third span, is there any consideration yet to demolish the old 2-lane bridge? Is that a done deal?
In terms of a consideration, absolutely,
Part of it.
that's an option within the alternatives that'll be.
If they're getting the word out so that you can say to anybody, oh, it looks like we're gonna build 3 bridges, but we're really gonna net down it. It'll still be 2 bridges.
It shouldn't look like we're gonna build 3 bridges. We've never said that.
We've
that's-
never said we've never said 3 bridges, but somehow that's out there in the public.
Well, it's everywhere. I mean, just,
Yeah.
let's not argue the 3 bridges, because it's everywhere. It's, we're gonna put a 3rd span. And.
Yeah.
and
Third
I'm
span, there's 2 ways of reading that. One is there's 2 that are there today. Anything that you build would be a third, whether you demo or not, right? So that's one way to count. Another way is to say we're gonna keep the 2 and add to it.
Right.
So we never implied that we were adding anything, although that is an alternative that could be considered.
Additional span, additional crossing, that's what.
Crossing.
Yes,
We're very careful to say a crossing.
Yeah, so
That's when you get that additional big.
I think in
Yeah.
terms of transit,
Plus, I should.
we need to, first of all, while we understand that summer seasonal traffic is a very impactful thing to this area, there is regular commuter traffic as well, and both Queen Anne's County and Anne Arundel County had in their priority letters requests to promote transit in the counties. And so some of consideration for transit connections between Queen Anne's County and Anne Arundel County may be appropriate and needs to be studied. So I don't think we're in a position at all to say transit couldn't work here, or anything. It needs to be looked at just like the other alternatives. There is a regular commuter base. I don't know where they all work. Our traffic information will show us origin and destination, where people are going, that kind of stuff, to be able to help inform us. Could a transit option help reduce traffic during peak periods? I don't think we know.
No, but we are also working with MTA, with the Transit Administration, to ensure that we would be looking at a transit alternative or transit options that would be compatible with their statewide goals and plans.
Right, yeah.
So we're not doing this in a closed box either. We are working with MTA. Last thing I'm gonna mention, going back to the one survey result, so important that folks said they understand and they see the importance of the lifespan of the existing bridges. I really feel like that is so critical for folks who say, we don't want a new bridge. Okay, well, understand that in the future, right now you've got 5 lanes of traffic, and Richard is working his butt off to keep those 5 lanes open as much as he possibly can. But as this infrastructure ages, he might need to be doing construction more hours of the day, which means peak period, when you normally have 5 lanes, he might have to put you down to 4. So it could mean less availability of lanes in the future. And when people realized and understood, oh, we're really gonna have to be doing work on this, it might impact me and make it worse than today. Folks started to say, oh, well, if you have to replace it just to, so that we could get over, so that we could have at least what we have right now. That's where this big number came in, where people started to understand we're not necessarily looking at building this Cadillac. We're looking at maintaining transportation across the bay. So I really think that's important, and I think it's gonna be helpful to us as we move forward, as people understand that this isn't, it's not a Cadillac, we're looking to maintain transportation.
And Pat, on your transit thing, just real quick, most people think transit is just the rail, right? So transit can, and because MTA, they have several forms of transit. They have rail, they have light rail, heavy rail, but they also have bus, like bus rapid transit. And as Melissa mentioned, they look at their statewide needs and inventory. But they also look at the appropriateness for what a transit system will be. So, would a light rail across this area be appropriate? Probably not, without all the infrastructure built in. Would transit be in combination with the new structure, whatever it may be? It may be one of the options that may come out of the NEPA, maybe a new structure along with some bus rapid transit to increase if there's an increased amount of commuters from the eastern shore to the western shore. So that would all be in, but the bus rapid transit thing could also be added at a later point too, as the demand grows. But it's not, a lot of people just think it's just rail, and it's not. So, because like in Western Maryland, the transit out there are, the buses and things like that we help with the locals.
Yeah, well, most of us who live out here have to get a car to drive to where the transit would pick us up. So that, it's a waste of time to talk to me about.
No, I just wanted to make it clear to folks that transit is not just a rail system.
But the one thing that has helped me in fighting off the wolves who are after us to try to improve the traffic and stuff is when you do bring up the fact that the end of life for this bridge. That stuff, when Jim Ports and I talked about that at one of our meetings, that absolutely shut me up, and I thought we have to take care of what we have now. And we have to go from a 2-lane to a whatever.
And the county resolutions that we received were very clear that there was a concern about lifespan and that there was an interest in not maintaining the existing bridges and adding a third. That the desired solution in the county resolutions was a new structure, demolish the existing. We got it. That was clear. There's still a NEPA process that has to happen, but we understand that that's what the ask was in the resolution.
Logically, the ROI in helping people to understand, and they do. And the fact that you're just putting good money after bad, if you keep repairing the old bridge, you need a new bridge.
Which is exactly this support. Nick, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question. Has there been any study as to increasing the tolls to help fund some of this new bridge when the time comes? I mean, you're not gonna have the same tolls with new bridges. I can assure you of that.
We will be, as part of this study, looking at tolling mechanisms that we can use. I say mechanisms, different ways of tolling, how it would work. Yes, we will be looking at that. Keeping in mind, that's part of our financial plan, because the, toll money comes into the authority. All of those things will be looked at as part of the study.
You drive some places to New England and there's nothing to get a $10 or $15 toll. You don't even know you're going through it. Because you got the toll routes. So might have, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta pay for it somehow. I think you could pay a good bit of the nut with toll.
We will absolutely be looking at that as part of our financial plan.
More questions for Melissa?
A number of years ago, I read an article that federal funds have been appropriated for a New Bay Bridge. And I haven't heard anything. It was a considerable sum at that time. It was put into a port-packed transportation and infrastructure bill. Do you know anything about that? The amount of funds available?
Not to us. We have not used federal funds on this project at all. This is the $28 million that we're using is completely authority.
Are you sure? So Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel
Bay Bridge
is doing
Tunnel
the
did receive.
expansion of their adding the additional tubes
They
for
did
that
receive
widening
federal
in
funding.
Virginia. They did receive federal funding.
I read that too.
Are you sure you're talking about us?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
what
State bridge.
Yeah,
To the Chester River.
I'm pretty sure I read that too.
They did get federal funds for that. Good point. And
Any other questions?
Tim, I'm sorry.
Tim, waiting to get up here, you can't wait.
Very
All right,
So I'm going to provide a couple updates on projects we've completed. I know that might actually help you out, Tracy, a little bit with some of maybe the inquiries from before. And do my normal thing with some stats, but I know some folks want to talk about that temporary rent management we did last August when we knew what our plans are for this upcoming year. So as far as just updates, so Eastern Shore, we wrapped up the paving on the eastbound 50 on Maryland 8. Thank you, Richard, for coordinating with us. MDTA always good partner with that. We also finished up Dominion Road. That's been patched. The Route 8 Opticon is alive and functioning. It's fully installed.
did they get it straight?
As far as that's what they told me. You still got problems on your
They
end?
never called me back to get tested, so.
Okay. If you have problems, let me know. We've also installed a variable message sign with travel times for the Bay Bridge there located at Nesbit, and we're gonna keep that there year round. On the Western Shore, we completed the US 50 paving, just from Oceanic to 450, and then also the ramps on 2 to 50. And then just from, I normally give you stats, but just roughly for 2022, or 2023 now, right? We had roughly 1,500 motorist assist throughout the entire corridor, roughly 2,500 total incident responses. That's roughly equivalent to what we were doing last year. But, we during summer seasons, we put some additional resources out there. That's roughly 20% of it. But I'm looking at ways we can put some additional resources both on the Eastern Shore as well as out west a little bit in the I-81, I-70 area full time too. So we're seeing a benefit from the added resources during the weekends. Looking at that, trying to figure out how I can do that full time. I'm gonna have to either raise some additional children to run the work for me, or I'm gonna have to reallocate some resources within state highway. Not sure my wife's going to up for the first option. So temporary grant management part.
I can loan you some.
No, I don't necessarily work. So I guess in July, I said we were going to do the pilot. We did it in August. I kind of gave you some feedback on where we're at with that overall. The good news is kind of what I heard already is Melissa's got your traffic data. We can use some of that traffic data to help us from an origin and destination part, especially on the broadneck side. So we're looking to collaborate and partner with MDTA on that. We're also looking at opportunities where we can get some crowdsourced data. Because what I want to be able to do is just that month of August is figure out where all traffic was going at that time, both on state routes, but also the county and other local roads. Kind of see what the impact of doing that temporary signal did in terms of where folks went. Because what I kind of shared last time and what we definitely saw was putting a single traffic signal or just trying to manage traffic flow on the local roads at one point isn't going to be a solution there. We kind of need to manage it as an entire system. It's kind of how we handle our entire network, but we obviously notice both on the Kent Island side as well as the broadneck side, we can't handle this as just one ramp. It needs to be an entire system. Because when we did do that, we had some challenges. We had some folks making, in my opinion, some very poor decisions in terms of making creative U-turns and going and using ramps the way they were not intended, specifically like exit 31 there. But what I say all that is that we're gathering all this data. Like I said, it continues to be a network, looking at this as an entire system. We're looking at additional improvements, maybe longer term improvements to do this summer and potentially a pilot, but we won't be doing anything without bringing it back to BRAG. I will also be meeting with broaden that community and sharing whatever we do on that side. We're also looking at opportunities, what we can do on the Queen Anne's County side, because we know we need to balance that. I've set up some things both in our CTP to kind of look at opportunities for improvements there. So just, we'll be proposing future opportunities. I'm just not quite ready at this time to kind of present what we plan on doing, but what I can do is provide some concepts. Well, what I ideally want to do is, you heard Richard and Will and Jim all talk about kind of, they have a operations plan. Like if, you know, if we're going to contraflow, we're going to go with this phase of it. I want to be able to kind of match up with what they're doing. Because what we've seen is that if it's weather or incidents, what really is impactful to the service roads is when we're in contraflow or not. So, what I want to be able to do is pair up with whatever Will's doing to match up with whatever we do on either side of the bridge. And like I said, we can't do it just at one ramp. So what we're looking at is potential expansion, at least on the Broadneck side. And like I said, we would be partnering with the community before we made any final decisions, is looking at multiple ramps there at traffic signals opportunities. And also, like I said, kind of thinking about that as an entire system. I want to also look at, I think we were like back to the creative U-turns there at exit 31. Some folks were making some vehicles that shouldn't have been making U-turns, as well as trying to get out onto exit 31 on the US 50. That they were actually needing one lane, if not two lanes, to get onto US 50. So we're definitely be looking at that. Another opportunity, like I said, looking at the entire system, is there ways we can restrict less? Because that's what's creating some of the congestion on our service roads as well. But we know if we do that, I can't just put a sign up and say, don't turn left between these hours, without some type of law enforcement or some type of resources from State Highway to ensure that's happening. Also looking at other opportunities, can we deploy additional variable message signs to give more real-time, you know, the Bay Bridge is X minutes here, but maybe partner with Anne Arundel County as well as Queen Anne's County. Can we do that on the local system as well to try to keep? Now, the challenge is we want to be transparent and actual with the data. So if it is quicker on the service roads, we need to figure out, that's kind of back to that entire system. We want to be transparent with the data, but also make sure we're putting the right systems in place. So in addition to what I kind of mentioned, I also probably want to circle back, is there opportunities both on East College Parkway as well as Skidmore and Whitehall to kind of look what we talked about last February with the community, is there's opportunities to look at traffic calming, and also kind of like an entire system process, and not just looking at it just on a particular road, but in combination with the temporary ramp management as well as looking at limiting the left turns. So we're trying to, I want to be able to come back in April when we meet again and give like an entire package that everyone can kind of chew on a little bit. But anything we do, want to make sure we're working with the community, partner with MDTA, but also as we look at for additional ramp management or limiting left turns, is also work with the local businesses and the communities there to make sure we're not impacting them from a business standpoint as well. So, but I also know if we're stuck in traffic, they're not getting the business either. So it's about balancing that. So that was my quick USA Today version. Questions, concerns?
Yeah, we seem to be revisiting the same conversation we had, but when we started this pilot, and we have no answers yet. And so I'm wondering if we have any answers.
Well, I know the options that I presented last February were not received well by the community, but I also know we took forward like an option that the community presented didn't exact, you know, while we learned a great deal about that, what I want to try to do is look at expanding that. But there's some options built into that. I think, like I said, looking at it as an entire system, that I think we have better data, better information now. And like I said, more importantly, working with MDTA to get their origin and destination data will help us out tremendously to be more strategic about those options rather than paint with a broad brush.
When would you be ready to meet with the communities for the Broadneckers? I'll set it up.
Not
April?
Well, I'm targeting try to be ready by the next BRAG, but give me a month before I give you a more definitive answer. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, questions, Tim? Next line of business, unfinished business. And I think we covered most of our unfinished business in the over areas. Anybody have any unfinished business? Community inquiry response. First item is a letter from the BRAG to the governor, which was approved at the October meeting. Subsequently sent to the governor. Open the floor for any comments from members. Anything? They got it delivered and well received, hopefully.
Well, it's recorded in the minutes. Yes.
I
Yeah.
heard no complaints from the governor about it.
We'll deliver it.
All right, you said next we have Richard with the Bay Bridge.
I actually, let me on the letter, just to acknowledge for the BRAG members, I did talk to the governor's deputy chief of staff to make sure that he personally received it, and she did thank me and wish to express thanks for the letter.
Great, thanks for that. Next, we have the Bay Bridge run. With Bay Bridge administrator. Richard?
Yeah. I'll say, when I first walked in, I asked Sean and Mary if this was the New Year's party, and Sean, you said yes. I've never been to a New Year's party like this. Just, what's that?
You can't wear it.
Just a brief summary on the 2022 Bay Bridge Run. Again, the second annual Bay Bridge Run, which was originally across the bay. There were 16,000 registrants. Now, that's what we capped it at, 16,000. There was a decision to cap it at 16,000. So 13,877 started the race and 13,877 finished the race. So we didn't lose anyone. So that's a good thing.
Was it the same 13,000?
That's not in. As you all know, I mean, this was an interesting year. We had some fairly high winds and gusts. So we were watching that, and as we do every year, we set up a call, and Queen Anne's County has been very helpful on that. And this year they had to set it up with NOAA, so we have a 5-day look ahead, and we're constantly monitoring weather. So, but it was a close call, but we had some relatively high winds and gusts. Weather was around 51, so wasn't too bad. 46 states and DC represented. 62% female, 38% male. That's about the usual. Says a lot too, doesn't it? Average age 43. 24 people were seen by the medical staff, and most common ailments were joint injuries, abrasions, arms, leg slips, and so on and so forth. One person was transported. Other than that, completely safe and very successful. We want to thank everyone because it extends throughout on both sides, but especially Queen Anne County. We appreciate all the coordination and communication. So that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. New business, there's no new business agenda items to receive for tonight's meeting. Does anyone from the BRAG or?
I'm gonna go ahead and start.
There's supposed to be.
Well, I just wanna, for those that don't know, there's certain individuals in the room that are hopefully gonna be here at our next meeting. And I mean that sincerely. This organization, this group that's come together in the last 3 years, it's been phenomenal. Just the change in attitude and the change in, from the county standpoint of working with and trusting and sharing information. This is a good success story, and I hope it continues. And I hope I see everybody here at the April 15th or the April meeting, and business carries on with what we're trying to accomplish. The second thing I want to talk about
Say the
is
first thing, would it hurt or help for the counties that feel that way to write a letter to the
been there, done that.
administration? So
Yeah, we did that. Yeah,
that'd be a good thing. We appreciate you doing that.
absolutely. Yeah.
BRAG feel the same way, and they've come a long way, and appreciate everybody working together and come to a more cohesive group, and sometimes we've gotten out here, and I think we're all sort of
Rowing in the same direction.
right.
Yeah. I want to talk about the I've spoken about this in the past, contraflow in tractor trailers in that lane. And our delegation is more than happy to sponsor a bill, and I'm sure I can talk to the Anne Arundel County side too, to sponsor the bill. But we're looking for some help on how to write this, because I don't know how we would do this on the bridge. I don't know if it would be by cameras, is it video,
Delegate Aaron's reached out to us about some potential legislation. We obviously haven't seen anything yet.
correct.
I kind of had the sense it could be anything from just increasing the fines up to video options.
You want to make it a law, Jim? Is that?
I do, I mean,
Isn't it now prohibited?
on purpose, it is, but,
Why don't they take it?
do it.
well, it's hard, it's hard.
Lock
I
them
mean,
up?
I understand the enforcement portion of it is the hardest, most difficult point.
Yeah.
So, how do you catch a tractor trailer that's in the left lane? But, I think it needs to be the people pulling boats. I think it needs the mobile homes. I passed a guy this morning that had a pickup truck with a trailer, and he had at least 5 tons of steel. Cause I know how much steel weighs, and when it's bundled, and and his front tire's almost coming off the ground. And I looked and I said, if he had to slam on the brakes, and I've been there and seen 2 accidents, and I travel a lot, and I ride on the contraflow side because I'm a thrill seeker, and I want to see how many tractor trailers come at me. And then I get yelled at because I take a picture when I should be driving, but that's okay. But I'm just saying, I think that, we try to eliminate all those things that hold up the traffic, and we're doing a great job at that, and, we're removing the toll booths, some of the safety features that we have, and this is just another one, because, 100-mile-an-hour closure with the tractor trailer is a lot more dangerous than running into another car. And, I just, if there's something, if somebody has any information that we can do to help, script this and make it.
So there is a process for us to propose legislation.
We'll propose it, we just need some help writing.
That's where I was going.
Okay.
It's just that, it would be a lot easier for us if you drafted and we commented.
Okay.
Than us trying to write it for you, number one.
Understood.
Number two, some first principles with MDTA, we have a trust agreement. We can only use money on our own facilities, and we need to do things that make sense financially. So we wouldn't want to do something that would have a big administrative cost that we weren't able to recover, right? So we got it. Obviously, we do projects for safety benefits and all that, so I don't want to overstate that. But a camera solution, it would need to be cost neutral at minimum. And it could, I'm not aware of that solution anywhere else. So there's a lot to that I'm not sure how viable it is.
Understood, we gotta give it a college try. I know that we have, just for instance, the red X's, and the vehicles continue to run down that lane. Stevensville Middle School's there, it's within, isn't there a 2-mile limit or something that has the cameras, red light cameras gotta be, and that kind of thing, the speed cameras?
I don't know. You may know, but I don't know. Specific.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that, because that's another issue, and that, I think that'll stop some of that from going on.
And we did step up enforcement. I've even seen some of the comments on social media that, hey, don't go on the red X, you're gonna get pulled over. We've been doing that and very intentionally to try to get people conditioned that.
Because it's gonna happen here once these go live, and this is, I think, is this the same distance as ours?
I think it's a little further.
What was it? Sorry, we were actually talking about it. The distance was, what was it?
On the western shore, how much further back?
The gantries.
Oh, the gantry?
Yeah, the same distance from the bridge, from the western side, eastern shore.
This is 1.5. This is 1.5, and that's
Why can't you-
2.5 on the other.
Oh,
Why can't you take a picture of the tag and send them a ticket?
On a
I
commercial
just got
vehicle?
home from DC the other day.
On a commercial vehicle, the trailer, obviously the tag is more difficult, so, Baltimore City has a program where, they have routes that are truck routes, which they have to publish a map for that, then they have they're allowed to have automated enforcement on routes that are not on these authorized truck routes, so, but in order to do that, it actually has to take a video recording of it. has to be manually processed. So somebody has to actually record and pull the DOT number in order to identify the correct operator. So it's a little more difficult than what we have under our existing work zone automated speed enforcement or the school zone speed enforcement, where the registration, the plate on the vehicle is to whom the fine is administered. The truck, the commercial vehicle, just the way that it's structured is a little more difficult to administer.
Half the trailer don't belong to the.
That's right. That's why, just taking tag is difficult. The location of the tag for a truck is not uniform across all states, it's.
But you guys have the messaging up there. I mean, it says 5 tons, vehicles, lane restrictions, yet they're coming up onto the bridge right in the middle lane.
And one thing that we talked about a little bit in relation when the delegates sent in a couple questions on this. Right now, because of all the ongoing construction, our way station is closed. So when they have to start going through the way station, that if they don't go through the way station, they'll get other enforcement, right? Now they're getting dumped out on the right side. That should help some. It's not, I mean, people are still gonna blast by the way station and that's an enforcement issue. And now I gotta go get them out of the control lane and everything that comes with that. But there will be some better performance for larger trucks that have to go through the way station.
Okay.
So we're happy to work with you on it. Jim articulated, it's feasible. It's just costly to do it, from the video perspective. So whether it's increased fines, whatever it is.
Okay. Like I said, because I would, if it was me, I'd add any type of trailer. Because I was, that one that pulled out behind me right into oncoming traffic, I couldn't believe it. He couldn't stop and he pulled right out there. And thank God it wasn't heavy traffic because people moved out of his way.
I mean, in terms of the expanding the legislation for who would be impacted by that, that would need, that the delegate or somebody would need to put out before to build.
Correct. That's all I got.
Anybody have anything else on our new business? Once, going, public comments?
Nobody call?
Our next meeting scheduled to take place on Wednesday, April 5th, 6 p.m. here. Please have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Thank you all.
Good meeting.
A lot of good meetings.
Yeah, great information.
I will send you too. I'm still recovering.